A journey through the Norse cosmos. Here is the first and most terrible secret of the Norse cosmos. The world you know was built from the dismembered corpse of a murdered god. This is not a metaphor. The very soil is his flesh, the ocean his blood, the mountains his bones, and the sky his very skull. This violent, visceral beginning is not merely an origin story. It is the key to understanding a universe defined by conflict, a world where order is a temporary fortress built against an endless siege, and where doom is not a possibility, but a prophecy. We are about to embark on a journey back to the time before time, to a void of primordial chaos, to witness the birth, the life, and the prophesied death of a world forever stained by the violence of its creation. In the time before time, there was only the gaping abyss, Ginnungagap, a void of perfect silence and darkness, poised between two elemental forces. There was no sand, no sea, no sky, nor any green thing. The emptiness was not peaceful, but pregnant with a terrible potential, a cosmic stage awaiting the collision of its first and only actors. To the north lay Niflheim, a realm of elemental ice, endless frost, and biting mist. From its central spring, venomous rivers flowed out into the void, freezing layer upon layer into a vast expanse of rime. To the south lay Muspelheim, a world of elemental fire, a seething land of heat and flame, guarded by the giant Surtur and his flaming sword. For ages, these two primordial powers crept toward one another. When the hot sparks of Muspelheim finally met the frozen venom of Niflheim, the collision was not a battle, but a cosmic alchemy. The ice melted, and amid the violent hissing and sputtering, like a blacksmith quenching a red-hot blade in cold water, the first beings were born. From the drops of this venomous meltwater, life quickened and took the form of the first creature, a colossal frost giant named Ymir, the Screamer. He was a being of raw, chaotic power, and from him the race of giants was born. As he slept, he began to sweat, and from under his left armpit grew a man and a woman. One of his legs then fathered a six-headed son on the other. As the frost continued to melt, a second creature emerged, a great, hornless cow named Audumla, abundance of humming. From her teats flowed 4 rivers of milk that nourished the giant Ymir. For her own sustenance, Audumla began to lick the salty rime ice that covered the void. For 3 days she licked. On the first day, a man's hair appeared. On the second, his head was revealed. By the end of the 3rd day, she had licked free the whole form of Buri, the first of the gods. From Buri came a son named Bor, who married a giantess named Bestla. Together, they had 3 sons who would become the architects of the world: Odin, Vili, and Ve. As they grew in power, the 3 brothers looked upon Ymir and his brutish offspring with contempt. They decided that the raw chaos the giant embodied must be destroyed to make way for a new order. They waged a terrible war against the primordial being, and in the end, they killed him. When Ymir fell, a deluge of blood flowed from his wounds, a torrent so vast it drowned his entire race of frost giants. Only one couple, his grandson Bergelmir and his wife, survived by taking refuge in a vessel sometimes described as a hollowed log or a chest, floating on the Sea of Gore to become the ancestors of a new race of giants, the perpetual enemies of the gods. With the agent of chaos slain, the brothers' work of creation could finally begin, a creation that would forever bear the mark of this first murder. Unlike myths where worlds are spoken into existence by an omnipotent creator, the Norse gods were shapers, organizers, and architects. They did not create from nothing. They built their world with their own hands, using the most shocking of raw materials. They were warriors who had won their territory, and now they would build their kingdom from the spoils of their victory, the body of their slain ancestor. Odin, Vili, and Ve drag Ymir's immense corpse to the center of Ginnungagap and began their gruesome, sacred work. His flesh they molded into the earth. His blood they poured out to form the oceans, rivers, and lakes. His unbroken bones they raised up to become the mountains, and his shattered teeth and bone fragments became the rocks and pebbles. His hair became the trees, the grass, and all green plants. His brains they tossed into the air to drift forever as the clouds. To create the heavens, they took Ymir's skull and raised it to form the dome of the sky. To hold it aloft, they stationed 4 dwarves at its corners: Norðri, north; Suðri, south; Austri, east; and Vestri, west. To illuminate their new creation, they caught the glowing sparks and embers that flew from Muspelheim and fixed them in the sky as the sun, the moon, and the stars. As a final act of architecture and defense, the brothers took Hymir's eyebrows and used them to build a great defensive wall around a center of the world. This fortress they named Midgard, the middle enclosure, a bastion to protect their future creations from the vengeful giants who had survived the flood. The implication of this creation is profound and inescapable. Because the world is literally made from the body of the giant's ancestor, chaos is not an external force to be defeated. It is an inherent, intrinsic part of the very fabric of existence. The conflict between the gods and the giants is not just a war between 2 nations, but an internal struggle woven into the very matter of reality. The world is like a house built with wood from a cursed forest. No matter how beautifully it is constructed, the curse is now part of its walls, its floors, and its very foundation, destined to one day bring it crashing down. To hold this beautiful, new, yet fundamentally flawed universe together, a great and powerful structure would be needed to rise from its very center. At the spiritual and physical heart of this new cosmos stands Yggdrasil, an immense and evergreen ash tree. An immense and evergreen ash tree. It is the Axis Mundi, the world tree, whose mighty branches reach into the highest heavens, and whose 3 great roots delve deep into the foundations of reality, anchoring and connecting all of existence. Each of its roots leads to a sacred source of power that defines the nature of the cosmos. The root of fate. The first root stretches to the Urðarbrunnar, the well of fate. Here dwell the 3 Norns: Urd, what has been; Verdandi, what is happening; and Skuld, what shall be. They are the weavers of destiny, spinning the threads of life for all beings, including the gods themselves. From this well, they draw sacred water to pour over the roots of Yggdrasil, preserving its life. Their presence establishes a universe governed by an inexorable fate, Urd, an active and shaping power that no being can escape. The root of wisdom. The second root reaches into Jotunheim, the land of the giants, to the Mimisbrunnar, the well of wisdom. So great was Odin's thirst for knowledge that he journeyed to this well and asked its guardian for a single drink. The price was steep. Without hesitation, Odin gouged out his own eye and dropped it into the well as payment. This sacrifice reveals a core Norse value. Wisdom is not given, but earned through pain and loss. The root of destruction. The third root descends into the primordial darkness of Niflheim and the spring known as Forgelmir. Here, at the deepest foundation of the world, the great dragon Nidhegger, Malice Striker, relentlessly gnaws at the root, a symbol of the ever-present forces of destruction and decay that seek to undermine creation. Yggdrasil is no silent monument, but a living, breathing ecosystem, a theater of constant strife. At its highest branch sits a great, unnamed eagle, and between its eyes perches a hawk named Vedfolnir. 4 great stags, Dine, Dralin, Dunair, and Durathror, roam its branches, nibbling at its leaves. And ensuring the cosmic tension never ceases is the squirrel Ratatoskr, whose name means drill tooth. He scurries endlessly up and down the trunk, a messenger of discord, carrying insults between the eagle at the top and the dragon Nidhugg at the bottom. His purpose is to ensure that the conflict between the forces of order and chaos remains forever active, a dynamic and necessary part of existence. With the great tree connecting all points of reality, we can now travel along its paths to visit the strange and wondrous worlds that cling to its branches and roots. While the ancient poems speak of 9 worlds, our map of this cosmos comes to us largely through the work of a single man, the 13th century Icelandic scholar Snorri Sturluson, who organized these tales centuries after the Viking Age. To truly understand this map, we must use the Norse key to its design, the concepts of innangard, inside the enclosure, and utangard, beyond the enclosure. Innangard represents order, civilization, and law, while utangard is chaos, wilderness, and the untamed. It is Snorri Sturluson we now follow as we visit the most famous realms and witness the great stories that unfolded there. The heart of order, Asgard and Midgard. Asgard, the enclosure of the Aesir, is the celestial fortress of the gods, the ultimate innangard space. Its myths revolve around its defense. After the very first war, the bloody Aesir-Vanir War, left their citadel damaged. The gods hired a giant mason to build an impenetrable wall. He demanded the sun, the moon, and the goddess Freya as payment. To save the gods from this terrible price, the trickster Loki transformed himself into a mare, luring away the giant's powerful stallion and halting the work. Enraged, the giant threatened the gods, only to be slain by Thor's hammer, revealing the gods' willingness to use deceit to protect their order. Midgard, the middle enclosure, is the innangard world of humanity. Odin, Vili, and Ve created the first humans, Ask and Embla, from 2 pieces of driftwood. They did not simply give them life, but a divine spark. Odin breathed into them spirit and life. Vili gave them consciousness and movement, and Ve granted them faces, speech, hearing, and sight. Positioned vulnerably between the divine and the chaotic, Midgard is encircled by a vast ocean. In this ocean dwells the monstrous sea serpent Jormungandr, a child of Loki, who is so large that he holds his own tail in his mouth, a constant, encircling reminder of the chaos that contains and defines the human world. The worlds of the gods and giants, Vanaheim and Jotunheim. Vanaheim, the home of the Vanir, is the realm of the second tribe of gods, associated with fertility, nature, and magic. Its defining myth is the Aesir-Vanir War, a primordial conflict sparked when the Aesir grew wary of the Vanir's powerful magic. After a long and indecisive war, the two tribes made peace by exchanging hostages. The Vanir sent their most honored members, Freyr, Freya, and their father Njord, to live in Asgard, forever integrating the two pantheons. Jotunheim, the home of the giants, is the archetypal Utangard, the wild, untamed land of chaos, dark forests, and frozen mountains. But the relationship between gods and giants is not a simple matter of good versus evil. It is deeply complex and intertwined. Odin's own mother was a giantess, and giants often possess great wisdom, like Mimir. To illustrate the constant struggle across this boundary, we turn to the theft of Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. The giant king, Thrym, stole the weapon and demanded Freya's hand in marriage for its return. To retrieve it, Thor, the mighty god of thunder, was forced to disguise himself as Freya in a wedding dress. At the feast, when Thrym placed the hammer in his bride's lap, Thor seized his weapon and slew the entire wedding party, reclaiming order through a mix of violence and humiliation. The Unseen Realms, Alfheim and Svartalheim. Alfheim, the elf home, is the luminous and beautiful realm of the Light Elves, ruled by the god Freyr. It is a celestial world associated with beauty, growth, and positive magical forces. In stark contrast is Svartalheim, the subterranean world of mines and forges. Here live the dwarves, master craftsmen. Their skill is legendary, born from one of Loki's greatest mistakes. After mischievously cutting off the golden hair of Sif, Thor's wife, Loki was forced to go to the dwarves for a replacement. He then wagered his own head with two other dwarf brothers, Brokkr and Sindri, that they could not forge treasures of greater worth. As they worked, Loki, in the form of a fly, bit them viciously to sabotage their craft. Despite his interference, they succeeded, creating the god's most powerful artifacts, including Odin's ring Draupnir, his spear Gungnir, and, most famously, Thor's mighty hammer Mjolnir. The Sorrowful Journey, Helheim. Helheim, the hidden realm, is the gloomy underworld for those who die of sickness or old age. It is ruled by Loki's daughter, the goddess Hel, whose face is half that of a living woman and half a decaying corpse. The most poignant journey to this realm follows the death of Balder the Beautiful. Beloved by all, Balder was protected by an oath from all things not to harm him, all except the humble mistletoe. The jealous Loki fashioned a dart from it and guided the hand of Balder's blind brother, Hother, who threw it and killed him. Grief-stricken, the gods sent the hero Hermod on Odin's 8-legged horse Sleipnir on a perilous 9-night ride to Helheim to beg for Balder's return. The goddess Hel agreed, but only on one condition. Every single thing in all the 9 worlds must weep for him. Messengers were sent out, and everything wept, men, beasts, even stones. But they found one giantess, Thuk, who refused. "Let Hel hold what she has," she cackled. It was Loki in disguise. Because of this single refusal, Balder was sealed in the underworld, his death a harbinger of the end to come. It is important to remember that our vision of hell may be colored by Snorri Sturluson's Christian worldview, as some of his descriptions add punitive elements like the venom-drenched corpse shore, which may be a later addition to the original pagan concept. These stories, unfolding across the realms, all point toward a single, overwhelming truth. Even the most powerful gods are subject to tragedy, loss, and a great final fate that awaits them all. In the Norse worldview, the end of the world is not a guess but a prophecy. Ragnarok is a destiny woven into the fabric of creation from the very beginning. The question was never if the world would end, but how the gods would meet their doom. The death of Balder was one of the first great signs that the end was near. When the time comes, the sons of Muspelheim, the fire giants led by Surtur, will ride forth. They will gallop across Bifrost, the shimmering rainbow bridge that connects Asgard to Midgard, and the bridge will shatter behind them. This is the signal for the final, fateful confrontations. In the midst of the battle, Thor will face his ancient nemesis, the world serpent, Jörmungandr. They are fated to kill each other. Thor will finally slay the great beast, but as it dies, it will cover him in so much venom that he will take only 9 steps before falling dead himself. This duel symbolizes the final, catastrophic breakdown of the barrier between the ordered world and the chaos that has always encircled it. The end will come with fire. Surtur, with his flaming sword that burns brighter than the sun, will set the entire world ablaze. Yggdrasil will shudder, the heavens will burn, and the earth will sink into the sea. The cycle that began with the meeting of fire and ice will be completed by an all-consuming fire. Yet it is prophesied that from these ashes a new, green world will be born. Balder will return from the dead to rule over it, and a new age will begin. Although the world of the Norse gods was destined to burn, the stories themselves would prove far harder to destroy, echoing down through the centuries and into our own. The power of these myths is so great that they have survived their own apocalypse. They have found new life in our books, our movies, and our games, proving that a good story can outlive a universe. This enduring legacy is a testament to the power of the Norse archetypes. J.R.R. Tolkien built the foundations of modern fantasy on this cosmology. His Middle-earth is a direct translation of Midgard, and while he borrowed the names of his dwarves and Gandalf from the Poetic Edda, his deepest borrowing was thematic. He adopted the Norse ethos of northern courage, a heroic, defiant stance in the face of certain doom. This is the spirit that animates his heroes, who fight on not for hope of victory, but because it is right to do so, even when the world is ending. Marvel's Thor introduced figures like Thor, Loki, and Asgard to a global audience. While their relationships and stories are adapted for a modern heroic narrative, Ragnarok, for instance, becomes the destruction of a planet rather than the entire cosmos. The core archetypes remain powerfully recognizable. Video games like God of War and Assassin's Creed Valhalla allow players to digitally inhabit and explore the 9 realms. These interactive experiences demonstrate the framework's remarkable power for immersive world-building, letting a new generation walk the paths of Yggdrasil. The enduring power of the Norse cosmos lies not in its specific details, but in its honest and profound grappling with the great themes of existence. It gives us a universe born from violence, a world where the struggle between order and chaos is not a battle to be won, but a tension to be lived. It tells us that fate is relentless, that even gods can be flawed and tragic, and that the ultimate meaning of heroism is not to win, but to face certain doom with courage and defiance. And so, we remain captivated by the beautiful, tragic, and unforgettable cosmos built from the corpse of a god.